Yeah. So I'm playing that on, or when I am playing that in VR, I am playing it on an Oculus Quest 2.
Oh.
And that is the new headset that's coming out this month. And it is better than the Quest 1. It's going to be like better screens, like better resolution. Like it is a step up for sure from the original Quest. And that's been nice to kind of move up to that and getting a little bit more clarity and just a better looking, better moving experience. It's not an Index, it's not some of those headsets I actually have never tried an Index now that I think about it.
It's sitting in the office.
Yeah, it's there somewhere.
We think.
Who knows? Actually, yeah. I mean,
I haven't gotten an email from the mailroom since we left in March, so I have no idea what's going on.
I got an email.
I saw the mailroom guy at a grocery store, and I waved hi from a distance.
No way.
Yeah, and then he looked at me and just like nodded his head.
Which one?
Yeah, who?
The old guy with the mustache, or the other guy?
The other guy.
Okay.
Is it Steven?
Yes,
okay.
Steven.
Okay. I hope he's doing all right.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, no, I got the email saying a package from Valve is here, and I think that was the last one I got. And they turned it off and turned off all the systems and all this stuff.
So what's the cable situation with the Quest 2 at this point? Is it just like one USB-C cable?
Yes.
Or is that all you need?
Yeah, it's USB-C, and so it's interesting, man. Like Oculus is in a weird middle ground here, where they are going to discontinue the Rift S and not have a pure desktop headset anymore, but they still very much have this desktop software and store and stuff and this layer that sits on your PC. Even if you're playing games on Steam, that layer still sits there. And so the process, and I hope that they smooth this out over time, because actually I found that the wireless streaming hacky sideload process of playing PC VR games on a Quest is actually easier and it's simpler to get going than it is to use the plug-in Oculus Link solution. So what they do is they want you to plug the cable into the PC, and there's a bandwidth concern there. Generally speaking, most cables seem to work. I think more cables work now than did before. You put on the headset and it'll say, "Hey, do you want to enable Oculus Link?" And then so you put on the headset, you're in the Quest environment. It will pop up and say, "Do you want to go into Oculus Link?" And you say yes. And then the Oculus Quest interface goes away and the Oculus Rift interface shows up from your PC. Now that's a separate store and launcher for Oculus-based, PC-based Oculus software.
Right, because Quest games are made to be played on the headset. Just
exactly. You install them on the headset, freeform. You're just off in the middle of the street, hopefully not exposing it to direct sunlight, doing whatever.
Exposing yourself to direct sunlight.
Exactly, which is a terrible idea. So then you end up. So now you're suddenly one layer deep, right? You have gone from the native Quest interface to the non-native Rift interface, which is a separate storefront and a separate experience, and you're playing games that are installed to your PC. Let's say you then want to play a game that you have on Steam. There's then another layer where you are in Steam VR all of a sudden, and so you are playing a game from your Steam account in VR. It's all working great, but then you want to get out, and different buttons will bring you to different front end menus where they're like, you hit a button and you're like, oh, whoops, that's the Steam menu. I'm trying to get to the Oculus menu. And you're like, wait, this is the Oculus Rift menu. How the hell do I get back to the Quest interface? Oh, I need to disable Link entirely, which will shut everything down. I think that's how they've extended it out so many different layers and so many different interfaces and all this other stuff that it's fucking kind of insane.
See, as a Windows mixed reality user, that just sounds like VR to me, because that's exactly what you have to do there. Like you have to launch into the Windows mixed reality home and then launch Steam VR from within that, and that all totally has different overlays on different buttons and like. So
and that's how it is.
You're in.
Yeah, if you're using an Oculus Rift, a PC based Oculus headset to play Steam games, you still end up in those two layers of you've got the Rift interface and then the Steam interface suddenly throws up over the top of it. And you've got like different storefronts and different menus and stuff. Like that's never been an ideal experience. But to extend that out one layer deeper where now you've suddenly somewhere way back there is your native Quest interface. It's not... They've reached a point with it where like if you were to hand this to someone who was not technically savvy and say like, hey, here you go, and they're like, I want to play a PC VR game.
Half-Life Alyx, here we go.
Okay, all right, hang on. I mean, the Quest itself is like super easy to use, right? Because it installs right to the headset. You go to the interface, you launch the game, you're in there playing it. Drawing your Guardian, your boundary on the ground is as easy as ever. Like all that stuff is great. I think actually the whole process of just like the Quest as a standalone device is really nice. And this one is more powerful. So those experiences are going to be, I guess, like less reduced because a lot of those games show up on both platforms, both PC and on the Quest. So, you know, it's if they're, you know, more hardware horsepower on the Quest itself is going to lead to better experiences there than you got on the Quest 1, which was already mostly fine for a lot of that stuff. But, you know, as someone who's going to always want to play stuff on PC or want to check out games that are only available on PC, like a Half-Life Alyx, which I reinstalled to figure, like, why not spend some more time with that? It's a lot. And if you are not technically minded enough to keep your head straight around, like, which of these interfaces am I even looking at, like, you might have a really bad time just navigating into and out of a game. And I think that aspect of it is... just bizarre. It's like a bizarre situation that we've ended up in. And then you still have the situation where like, hey, you'll be in VR and something crashed. And you're like, why did everything just stop? I'm in the headset. I don't know what crashed because I'm still in the headset and everything just kind of froze. You have to open it up and see, okay, which step in this chain errored out? You know, like, was it the app itself? Was it Steam VR? Was it the Oculus layer? Like what crashed? And so I had a couple of instances of that where I was trying to do VR chat, where I was playing as a gigantic Funky Kong. And
Jeff, if you were to be a Kong, I think you would be Funky Kong.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was also playing as Cool Spot for a little while.
The guy with the board shorts.
Yeah.
Funky Kong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do-rag?
Rocking a sweet bandeezy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sure.
So yeah, there's other stuff like that. It's just not as smooth of an experience as you want this stuff to be in terms of like, hey, we want more people. Like more people should check out VR. It should be easier for more people to check it out. Like the idea that Facebook is discontinuing the PC headset completely, it just like adds another layer of complexity to this. That you're just like, this is bizarre. So I wonder like if eventually they're going to just like phase out the desktop interface. Sorry, not the desktop interface, the Oculus VR interface in favor of that just being a storefront and a very thin shim that either launches your Oculus Store games that you happen to have on PC or is just easier at getting you into and out of Steam or something like that. Like it just seems like there's more work needs to be done there to streamline that experience, because if you go all the way out with this, to the what I think is actually like a better solution now, there is a hacky way to stream PC VR games wirelessly to an Oculus Quest. And this is through an app called Virtual Desktop, which is for sale on any VR platform. It started life as something that is just like, hey, I want to use my PC while I'm in VR. And so you can bring up Virtual Desktop and it's just windows there staring you in your face and you're opening things and typing stuff and looking at porn on a web browser, you know, whatever you're doing. At some point, that thing got updated to basically also launch VR games from your PC, and stream that to you instead of just a Windows desktop. Now, the catch there is that Oculus apparently doesn't like that. So you have to buy Virtual Desktop on the Quest because that's the client. You're launching that, and then you're running software on the PC side that it connects to. You always have to do that no matter what you're doing, even if you're not playing VR games. If you're just using a PC, like for that, you have to run the Virtual Desktop streamer software on the PC that you want to connect to as like a server side thing. By default, that version that you buy and install in your Quest will not play VR games. You have to go sideload a patch version of it after buying it on the store, you have to then go sideload a patch or some kind of other thing onto the headset. There's a site, sidequesting.com, I believe is what it is.
Go on.
That is a separate app. That is a separate app interface that you can launch. You basically have to like sign up for an Oculus developer account, I believe, to get access to the Quest in the way that you need to do this stuff.
Sidequesting.com is actually a gaming blog that I think I used to write articles for.
Okay. Then it might be just sidequest.com. Anyway, whatever.
I was like, that name is too familiar.
Yeah.
Hold on, I have to check.
I just have a mental image of people holding their Oculus Quest sideways up against their head.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So you get all that stuff installed. You're jumping through even more weird hoops there, because then you're like, okay, now I need to be an Oculus developer and give Facebook even more data about me. Also of note, the Oculus Quest 2, when I got it in, would not take my Oculus ID.
Huh.
It was like, yo man, log in with Facebook, dude. I was like, oh, okay. So keep that in mind, depending on your Facebook feelings.
Yes.
So anyway, once you jump through all those hoops, you can wirelessly play PC-based VR games on your Quest. And I have found that experience to be absolutely comparable to the wired experience. And it's actually simpler because you just you put on your Quest, you launch virtual desktop, it sees the PC that's running the streaming software, connects to it automatically. You push one button. It's got a games tab. It says, here are all the Oculus and Steam games you have installed on this PC. You click it, you launch it, you're in. Getting out is still a process of like, oh, it still technically has the Steam VR launcher there and all this other stuff. So getting back to that games list is like maybe not as clean as I would like, but it actually, the convenience there is so much more than the process of like establishing the official Oculus Link connection, getting into the Oculus interface, getting it like all that stuff is it's just too many steps. And yeah, the virtual desktop solution works surprisingly well. It burns through battery like fucking crazy.
How are they sending that video wirelessly? Like, what standard is it sending the video over?
It will adapt. It's using HEVC.
No, I mean, like is it going over Wi-Fi or is there some?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Because it's the headset has Wi-Fi.
Yeah. I would think the latency would be too much.
It's not.
Because any latency in VR is enough to like make you sick, you know?
I have not had any issues with it.
Huh. That's wild.
On that front, or any more or less issues that I would have if it were wired, I guess I should say. Like there's definitely some games that are going to be more swimmy stomach than others.
Sure.
But yeah, I have not had any extra issues with that. That's like a your mileage may vary thing. I can't, and I've am not equipped to necessarily do lag measurements about how many milliseconds it's taking to render a frame on the headset versus like wired versus wireless. Someone presumably has done that math out there somewhere. So, but yeah, the wireless method for me has been kind of the only way to go. And it's been pretty cool. So that's probably what I'll use the Quest 2 for most of all. I mean, like they are putting out like a sequel to The Climb called The Climb 2. On Quest and some other stuff like that. I still haven't had time to try the Phantom Covert Ops, the stealth kayak game.
TACAC.
So I want to finally check that out. I installed that. Tetris Effect is out on the Quest. I installed that on it and it's like, yep, that is definitely that game. Rez is coming out pretty soon here. So the Quest 2 seems all right. Though obviously I think for a lot of people, an increasing number of people as time goes on, I think the Facebook requirement is getting harder to stomach for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they're not like letting fake accounts or like dummy accounts, right? They're kind of throwing the hammer at that.
It's
to even create an account now, sometimes you'll have to like upload your ID and shit.
Oh, Jesus.
And there's also the idea of just like if you're buying a bunch of VR games on a fake account and they kill the fake account, are you going to lose the games you purchased and stuff like that? So
I was reading the other day that even if you don't actually have a Facebook account, if they are able to aggregate enough data about you to assemble a basic profile of you, They will just create a shadow account for you internally anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they basically just want to have a record of every fucking human being on the planet.
Like, I deleted my account years ago, and I'm sure they still have fake Ben Pack in there somewhere.
God, man.
Yeah, I mean, like that's.
Can I use the shadow account?
Shadow Ben.
Shadow, yes.
Yeah.
This is the mirror bin pack.
Yeah. But, and I think that's something that as they upgrade firmware across the older devices and stuff, that my understanding is that they are eventually going to move all to Facebook as a required.
Yeah, like eventually they will complete the Facebookification of this stuff, and like maybe the Oculus name will survive, but maybe even that will go away.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, they are working on a new, there's, what's it called? Facebook Horizon. It's like a social VR, chat experience type thing that they've had in beta for some amount of time.
Right. Like an Oculus Connect already became Facebook Connect.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I mean, they've already been hard at work kind of. I mean, they're doing that across a lot of brands, like where you see the Facebook logo on the Instagram load screen and stuff like that, where it wasn't there before. And, they've been slowly, which is like for as drug through the mud and as low an opinion so many people have of the Facebook name these days, the idea that they're suddenly like, we need to get this Facebook name on more of the things we own. It's like, are you fucking idiots? What are you doing?
Well,
you should be actively trying to hide that this stuff is Facebook. Like, who's out there? I'm sure plenty of them are. I was going to say, how many people are out there going like, I work for Facebook and I'm proud of that.
Facebook executives definitely eminently aware of what the public perception of them is, and totally don't have their heads in the sand about the public opinion of their company.
Yeah, pretty much. But, whatever. It's, yeah, I think like no one is. If you're going to continue using an Oculus device, I think long term, they're eventually going to do that. They've had that as an optional, like, hey, log in with Facebook option for some time now, and this was the first time it got thrown in my face in terms of just like, no, you will log in with Facebook. And I was like, oh, but I already have an Oculus ID, and my Oculus ID was already linked with a Facebook account, so it wasn't even like a big deal on that front. But if you are worried about the impending Facebookification of Oculus, which they announced some time ago that they were going to move in that direction anyway, this headset it is here. So keep that in mind.
Yeah,
when that thing's coming out. They also someone asked in the chat. They sell a different strap for it that is apparently more comfortable, and there's an optional one of those that has an external battery pack as part of the head strap that is apparently good for extending the battery life. I do not have that, but that sounds interesting. It also comes in two sizes of storage, like a 64 and I think 256 is the other one. $100 difference on those. So it still seems like solid entry level VR once provided you can get over the Facebook hurdle. On that stuff.
VR headsets continue to come out. There's some new model of mixed reality headset coming from, I think, HP, I want to say, is who's doing that. It's coming pretty soon. That's got pretty...
Do I need to put ink cartridges in it? Or
pretty solid specs on it from what I'm seeing.
It needs to be official ink cartridges, though.
Yeah. Okay.
That's,
I'm curious to see, because Oculus getting out of the desktop... not even getting out of the desktop software side of VR, but getting out of the they're no longer going to sell a headset that is desktop only. They're just saying if you want to do that, get a Quest and plug it in. VR just seems like it's in an ultra weird spot right now, and it seems like it's been in one for a while now, where Half-Life Alyx came out and I think kind of came and went for people who are not already on board the VR train, and the noise of people who are on the VR train attempting to bang the drum as loud as they can for VR just seems weirder and weirder as time goes on. Where I think there's some really cool stuff happening in VR, but it's still inconvenient in a weird way and still clumsy and not consumer friendly enough in some ways that it just seems... I would not have anticipated that it went this way, but it feels like that's where we are with it, where it's like, oh, it's doing okay, but it's not burning it up.
It's got a treading water.
You're not like, oh yeah, VR, the future is now. Like it's treading water. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
It didn't crash and burn right out of the gate, but it also didn't quite change the world the way that people thought it might.
Yeah. And like the notion that they released a single player new Half-Life game.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that came a little too, like if Half-Life Alyx had come out like 2 years ago, because that was the thing for me, is VR was always missing the killer apps. Like there were games that were like cool in VR and it's like, oh yeah, this is neat, this is fun. Like most of them weren't, but then like there was no console sellers really.
Sure.
There were no like huge marquee VR games.
They had like a chicken and egg problem of just like, are you going to sell enough headsets to justify big development? And if there's no big development, will people buy headsets? And they kind of ran into that a little bit.
But then also like there were added issues of just like space for certain people, and having a PC powerful enough early on, like before the Quest.
Yeah, like I once again had to push my coffee table out of the way and drag a chair in front of the TV to get the PSVR track right last night. Like that stuff has not gone away. So
yeah, it's I would have thought that whole process would have been smoothed out in more ways than it has. I guess like that's the surprising thing. When you go look at the software and look at the games that are out there, it's like there are things that people swear by, and it's just like, oh no, man, Boneworks is the future, and you play it and go like, yeah, no, but like Boneworks is rad, but that's not like, it's not doing anything. Like
those two games for me have been Rez and Tetris Effect. Like those are the most memorable VR experiences I've had by far.
There's a game called Cubism that's out now that's like, it's going to draw a clear box on screen and give you shapes of different varieties and sizes, and you have to kind of fill the entirety of the box with the shapes. It's like that type of puzzle. But it gets very 3D and spatial awareness-y very fast, and in a way that only served to prove that I am incredibly bad with that specific type of puzzle solving and spatial awareness. But it's actually well made, and it is in that same vein as like Super Hypercube or Rez, like those type of like, here's a very confined, tight, focused experience that is improved by the 3D nature of VR, and that's cool. That's out recently. That's a pretty good recent release.
Is that on Steam?
Yes,
I will check that out. That sounds cool.
I believe it's also on Quest as well.
Okay.
I believe it's on Steam. I'm not sure.
Virtual reality.
Yeah.